Quote for the day: be strong, be fearless, be beautiful, and believe that anything is possible when you have the right people there to support you. By Misty Copeland. So back to working on stuff for the Mustang again. So I have these, what are they, 96 through 2004, basically Mustang spindles that came off of a junkyard car. You can see they're pretty crusty. So I hit them with a wire wheel and just try to get them cleaned up as best I can. But I think I need a sandblasting cabinet. I'm not too concerned about the hubs themselves, but just getting the spindle themselves cleaned up so I can get some paint on them. But I was using a little wire wheel on a drill. Then I had this cheap wire wheel from Harbor Freight. So I worked and got as much off of these things as I could with this wire wheel until it all came apart and shredded apart. Luckily I was wearing an old shirt and I have most of the wires, well, they were all over the floor and stuck in my shirt, so I just threw the shirt away. But as you can see, getting closer. I'm gonna start plugging through my list. I got these spindles. I did sandblast them, but as you can see, they're already getting some surface flash rust, whatever you want to call it, on there. So I'm going to try to get that knocked down a little bit. And then I went to knock the hubs. I did buy some new hubs for the front. But I went to get these off of the spindles. One side came off really nice and easy. So I think it was the left side, if it makes a difference. So I went to take the right side off, knock the hub off the spindle, and this part of the bearing just stayed right on the spindle. So I just had to just use a hammer and knock that off. Luckily I did have the trusty Ooga Dooga wrench here, and actually had a 35 millimeter, which was the right size for the nut that holds these hubs on the spindles. So I didn't have to sit there and try to wrestle it with a engineer's wrench, a crescent wrench. So I got that all off. Next thing is get these cleaned up, tape off the spindles, and get those suckers painted. And just got them hanging here. I sprayed them with some wax and grease remover, and it almost kind of looks damp there yet. So I'm gonna let these kind of air out and dry out. Probably run up to the auto parts store and grab some more like rusty metal primer or something, since this kind of started rusting up a little bit again. But I'm not uber concerned about that as long as I get it all covered so it's not turned into pure rust again. So I got the I think these came off of like a 97. I think they were even a V6 Mustang, but my understanding is V6, V8, the spindles are all the same. So this is off a SN95 modular V8, so you can see it's got the later, just the straight arms there, so it's not the 94, 95. I had some, but I sold those and wanted to go to these. Just talked to the guys at Maximum Motorsports. I think that's what they had suggested or mentioned, since I'm going to be lowering the car a little bit. And I got the K member sitting up underneath the bench here, control arms over there. I got all the shocks sitting there and the coilover kits. So basically that's what I'm going to do. Oh, and the caster camber plates. So that's what I'm going to work on today, is just kind of getting this thing kind of pieced together. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run to the auto parts store and grab a wire wheel and wire wheel all this surface rust. Hopefully get all of that off of there. I should have done that a long time ago. So that's my mistake for not doing it. But I figure I'll at least get some primer on there to at least keep it from getting worse. Slop some primer on those shock towers. I figure I'll probably have to take all this down to steel again anyway. This side looks a little better than the other side, since I did have a little primer on it. So get that cleaned up, slap some primer on it, and then maybe I'll start working on the coilovers, or get this, well, I'll have to move this dolly out from underneath it. So maybe that's what I'll do after that is, well, I'll have to get the dolly free, slap some primer on that since these are the sections of the frame rail I replaced, and kind of go from there, see how we're looking. Next update. So like I said, I was going to clean up the front end, and if you noticed before in some of the video that I took, this was pretty coated with like some surface rust, like on these Scott Rod fab panels. So I just shot them with some self-etching primer, just some rattle can stuff that I got from Napa. Did an okay job. I figure I'm probably gonna clean it up again later anyway, but at least now it looks like there's enough material on there that it should keep it from getting rust. And don't judge this. I'm thinking I'll replace this at some point anyway, but I just wanted to get the dolly out of there. So I got the dolly sitting there. It's probably the first time those have been out from under there, and I bet 1.5 years, maybe 2 years. So making progress. As you know, I think I mentioned before, I got the IRS at least loosely mounted under there. So next thing is getting the coilover set up, getting the caster camber plates on, getting the Maximum Motorsports K-member on, and I got the control arms over there. So the thing's going to start getting pieced together here very shortly. Read the instructions, and it said to put these Delrin bushings in the freezer for an hour because they're press fit. So I did that, and they were actually in there for a couple hours. So I went in and popped those in place. You could pretty much pop them in my hand. A couple of them I had to kind of tap on with a hammer a little bit. And I noticed one, it kind of drug and kind of had some shreds of like this Delrin bushing here. But they're all in there. They popped in pretty easy in place. Like I said, they were in the freezer, so this into the control arms got a little bit of a chill to it. I found the hardware kit to mount these control arms on here, I think. And I'll show this too. I got the K-member in place, and it's just snugged up. But I got the K-member in there, bolts here, so I bought new bolts to put in here. Luckily the J-nuts, or whatever you want to call these, were still in pretty decent shape. The rear control, or the rear K-member bolts that I had on there and plates were pretty good that I took off the car, so those are just reused. I got the Maximum Motorsports caster camber plates on here, and I did get a little over eager and like started putting things together, and then these were near backwards, and I forgot to put a washer on and that sort of thing. And then I also did read the instructions. It said to file these holes, these slots, so that this caster camber plate can rotate freely in there. So this one I actually had to file both sides of the hole to get it to fit decent. This one over here, I just had to file a little bit on this side, the inside or rearward side of the slot, and that's rotating in there pretty freely. And also I got the hubs mounted on the spindles, so that's actually looking pretty nice. I was kind of wishing I would have went flat black, but now I'm kind of happy I did the satin or the semi-gloss. It almost has a little bit too much gloss for me, but I think I'm gonna live with it and be okay. So got the hubs on there, they're good and snug. Hit them with the old Ooga Dooga wrench, and they're in pretty good shape. So I'm gonna see about getting this stuff under the car, and maybe see about getting the coilover kits on the front struts and see how far I can get. Last update for the day. Car's not going to be a roller, unfortunately. Just had enough little snafus. I am happy that I made some progress. About kind of where I thought I would be for the day. K-members bolted in. Like I said, it's kind of dusty from sitting. Caster camber plates. Got the Delrin bushings and that guy. Unfortunately, I do need, it said to use the stock K-member control arm bolt for the rearward one, but I sold the whole K-member with the control arms on it, never even got the bolt out of it. So I'll have to pick up some more hardware for that, a bolt for the rear on each side, and then some nuts for the front and rear on both sides. Then I'll be able to get that together. I wish I would have shown a little bit more of this, but I figure it's probably pretty simple if just kind of following the Maximum Motorsports instructions for getting these coilovers put together. But it's just a matter of dropping the sleeve on there. And then, well, you can't see it very good, but there's, well, you just got the sleeve, a bump stop, then there's like a hat with a couple of washers, like flat wash, thrust washers, and a little needle bearing deal in there. You can kind of see it in some of these pictures. But yeah, just throw a couple of thrust washers in there, grease up some needle bearings, pop that top hat all together, throw some spacers on there, the spring, the sleeve. I don't have the set screw set. I got it just down enough where it's holding everything together, just with everything loosely bolted up. So that's kind of what it looks like hanging in there. I did order some hardware because I didn't realize you were supposed to keep the rear bolt for the control arm out of the original control arms. And like I said, I sold that whole thing as an assembly, so I don't have the bolts. So I ordered a new control arm hardware kit from LMR this afternoon. So however long that takes to get here, and then hopefully I can kind of get things snugged up a little bit. I figure I'll just snug up all these bolts and kind of center everything, at least for the top of these caster camber plates. I think I got everything kind of set for the rear suspension, at least enough where I can set the car down on its wheels, get these control arms in, and get the spindles on. I still have the original hardware for that, and that was actually in pretty decent shape. Get this sucker on the ground. I'll probably end up putting the steering back in it too, just so you can kind of roll it around and steer it. So I think I might be waiting for a couple of days to get that stuff. All right, back out in the garage. It's probably about 10 days later, something like that, from when I said I'd have this car on the ground. But I did get the other sleeve from Maximum Motorsports, so I really have to thank my friends over there. But I got the coilover mounted up underneath the car. Got Owen out here helping me tonight. So we just snugged up this wheel with 3 bolts on it. And we're going through. Got the coilovers on, got the A-arms just, again, loosely mounted. Not everything's snugged up. We just snugged down the top of the caster camber plates here so that they're not moving around when we go to set the car down on the ground. But everything else, I kind of figured it's okay just leaving it kind of hand tight. Maybe we could do up the, well, as long as I don't get carried away, I'm not too concerned about the ball joints there. But I did realize that I probably should have grabbed the old bolts for the steering rack, but I left the old steering rack, the original steering rack, on the original K member that I sold off. So I just found some of these damn anchor bolts for working on our deck, but it was good enough that they're snug in the K member, but they're just loosely holding the rack on. So the rack can kind of flop around front to back, but at least for side to side, it'll help keep these spindles from just moving all over the place and flopping both wheels in or both wheels out or whatever when we get those mounted up. So that's going to be our next step, is we're going to get front wheels mounted up. Again, probably just with 3 lug nuts, and we're going to get this sucker on the ground. So I just wanted to give a little more update. We're just about ready to drop this car on the ground. This car has not had an engine in it since November of 2019. Then I think shortly after that, we put it up on, well, there's dollies somewhere somewhere, but it's been on dollies pretty much since December 1st of 2019. Then I think it was December of 2021, right around Christmas, it came up off the ground and everything got stripped off of it up until you saw like almost a shell. All the fenders off, wheels off, suspension off, everything.
The hood's been on the roof for a few years.
Yeah, and the hood's been on the roof there for a few years. So we're gonna drop it down. This is gonna be the first time that this car's been on its own wheels with the wheels on the ground since, I wanna say, just looking back at my pictures, December 1st of 2019. So here we go. All right, ladies and germs, gonna reveal the car sitting on the ground right now. Not even gonna beat around the bush at all here. So, like I said, first time in, what, 3-4 years? Gosh, has it been that long? Too excited to even do math right now. But this is the first time she sat on the ground with her own four wheels touching the ground, the asphalt, the pavement, whatever you want to call it. But we got everything in there. Got the 4x4 stance going on back here, but that will change. But I'm just not used to it being this low after it sat about 3 feet off the ground for a few years now. So it seems just super low to me, but it's probably not that low. Like I said, we got everything mounted up. Please ignore my hack job. I did that just to get a rack on there to hold the wheels from going opposite directions from each other. I haven't aligned the K-member or anything like that yet. I just kind of wanted to get it on the ground and see how it looked, just to get me motivated again. So that'll probably be the next thing, is figuring out how to square up, or just following the Maximum Motorsports instructions to get this K-member squared up. Probably dial down the rear shocks and see if we can get this thing sitting a little bit lower. Just to get an idea. Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to do, is just hang a fender on here. So like I probably mentioned before, this is the one with the forward offset A-arms. So I think that moves the front wheels ahead a whole 1.5 inches. So I'm interested in seeing how that looks in the original fenders. So I got the original fenders hanging out over there, just waiting. We drug out the fenders from under the shelf just to try them out. And here's how they're looking. Watch out, Owen. They're still kind of shiny from being under a blanket for 3 years.
You got 6 fingers on the back and about
half a finger
on the front.
But again, like I said, this is the Maximum Motorsports K member. It's not squared up in here yet, so it's not square and true to the rear end, so it might pull things around just a little bit and get it centered up and squared up in the car and see how it looks. But yeah, we just did have to drag the fenders out. They're not even bolted on, they're just hanging on the car, literally hanging on the car right now.
Literally hanging.
Yeah. Yeah. But that's how she's looking, folks. I have to leave that student driver sticker on there. Maybe I'll paint one onto the car when it's done. But yeah, I get kind of excited. I actually kind of want to take the car and wash it right now and get the dust off of it, just because I haven't seen it clean in 3 years, 4 years.
Cool.
All right, we're really getting crazy out here tonight. We just stuck the hood and just laid it on there just to see how it looks. But there it is, fenders, hood just laying on it right for now, just to get an idea. Just because it's been so long. And here's my nice list. So I crossed off 2 things. I should have crossed this one off a little bit ago, maybe a week or 2. Mounting the IRS subframe and cleaning up the spindles. So those are all cleaned up and painted and under the beast. Told you I couldn't resist cleaning it up. So I just came out here with some soapy water in a bucket and clean water a bucket, and probably dirtied up a couple buckets of water just trying to get some of the dust and dirt off of this thing. But like most cars, it probably looks way better the camera than it does in person. I wish I would have got a video of it with the hood still down. But I got the hood up there too. Got that all cleaned up. Like I said, I think I dirtied up about 5-gallon buckets of water just trying to get the dust and dirt off of this thing. But it's getting me more motivated and wanting to do stuff. And I got the GT wing. I'm gonna do that GT front end, GT rear wing. So I just set that on the trunk just to see how it looks. So it's not bolted down or anything, as you can see, but just to get an idea. I'm pretty excited about it.